When the United States announced their Olympic basketball roster, it was obvious that a number of superstars were going to be left off the team. I mean, they are by far the most talented and deepest country in the world when it comes to basketball. However, for some reason, the fact that Jaylen Brown was left off the roster has become quite controversial, especially after Kawhi Leonard had to leave the team due to injury, and instead of choosing Jaylen Brown as his replacement, a player who plays a similar position, Basketball USA chose his teammate Derrick White instead. Brown rebelled on his social media, and now a number of fans are claiming that the reason Jaylen Brown didn't make the roster is because Basketball USA actually has ulterior motives aside from winning the tournament. Some believe that the reason Brown wasn't picked is because he's not under contract with Nike. Others think it's due to his political views. We're here to explain why that's a whole bunch of horse crap. The actual reason why Jaylen Brown wasn't picked is because he isn't the best fit on the team. Just because Jaylen Brown is coming off a Finals MVP performance doesn't mean he's the best basketball player in the league. Sure, he's an amazing player, and we're not taking anything away from him. He's got an extremely well-rounded game. He can score in multiple ways, is a tenacious defender, and even contributes on the offensive glass. But that doesn't mean that he's the best player in the world, or an ideal fit on Team USA. No matter how good you think Jaylen Brown is, it's hard to make an argument that he's the best American-born option to play offense with the ball in his hands, and compared to a lot of other players on the roster, such as Derrick White, the guy who made the team instead of him, he's not as good a fit in an off-ball or playmaking role on offense. Jaylen Brown is far from an elite passer. He can dish it, but his greatest strengths on offense are his ability to break down defenders off the dribble and either drive to the bucket or score off the bounce. Amongst NBA players, Jaylen Brown ranks close to the top in points off the dribble and near the bottom in points that have been assisted by other players. But unlike when he's playing in Boston, where he's a top 2 option to score off the bounce, he'd be near the bottom on Team USA. Guys like Stephen Curry, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, LeBron, and Kevin Durant are all better primary ball handlers than Jaylen Brown is. Especially when considering the amount of talent on the roster, passing will become more of a virtue. Tyrese Halliburton too, for that matter. Stats just tell the tale. As a shooter, Jaylen Brown was worse from 3 than any other player on Team USA's roster aside from Anthony Davis, who's a rebounder and one of the best interior defenders in the league. A guy that would play an entirely different role than Brown would. For comparison, Kawhi, the player who was originally given the roster spot, shot .417 from 3 last season. Derrick White, his replacement, shot an impressive .396 from deep. Jaylen Brown, just a mediocre .354% accuracy. In terms of catch and shoot, Jaylen Brown would be amongst the worst on the team in that category as well. His three-point shooting percentage in catch and shoot situations was .353. Kawhi was lethal in catch and shoot this season, shooting .427. So that makes sense that they'd find a replacement like Derrick White, who knocked down about 42% of his catch and shoot opportunities. And as a spot-up shooter, it's basically the exact same story. Jaylen Brown just isn't particularly amazing at shooting three-pointers in any regard. And with so many ball-dominant players, Brown would be doing a whole lot of that if he were on the team. White isn't as good a scorer off the dribble as Brown, and we're not even arguing that he's a better player than Brown either. If you needed to build a team with either Brown or White as your star player, Jaylen Brown would be the obvious choice. But role is such a key component here. White might not be as versatile a defender as Brown, who, after winning a ship, is regarded amongst the best in the league. But Derrick White's still a hell of a good defender. He's about 6'5", guards the perimeter like a hyena, and has great awareness and switchability. He's also one of the most effective passers in the pick and roll as a ball handler. With some of the best role men in the league, such as Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis rostered on Team USA, White can allow them to be the stars and play more of a facilitator role. The truth is that even though Brown is an exceptional player, there are other players too that are more suited to playing an off-ball role for Team USA that didn't make the roster. Even someone like Paul George, who isn't crying like Brown, might be a better fit. You could make an argument that Brown's a better defender at this point in their careers, but George, when healthy, is no slouch on defense, and Paul George is one of the best three-point shooters in the entire league. We're not saying that George should be the one on the roster. In fact, considering the role, Derrick White will actually be a great fit in our opinion. We're just making the point that Team USA had a lot of great options and don't need to be justifying the Brown snub whatsoever. And it's not like choosing a few role players instead of stars is an unprecedented strategy either that USA is going with. Almost every year they choose some key role players with championship experience to play on the roster. In 2016, USA went with Harrison Barnes, who was a young shooter and wing defender with experience starting for the Warriors. They picked him over his own teammate, Andre Iguodala. Why? Well, Barnes was a better three-point shooter, so he was a better fit based on team needs. I don't think Iggy was blaming the snub on his shoe contract. And in 2008, Tayshaun Prince made the roster, a long wing defender who played for the Pistons during their championship season in 2004, but never made an All-Star game. But Basketball USA passed on Chauncey Billups, Richard Hamilton, and Rasheed Wallace, a trio of teammates that combined played in 12 All-Star games. We don't want to be too hard on Jaylen Brown because he's a hell of a player and a worthy candidate. I can only imagine that getting snubbed of your Olympic dreams after winning the Finals MVP award would be a gut shot and a hit to the ego. But still, the fact that the player that made the team instead of him was his own teammate and he's still throwing such a fuss is pretty immature and says something about what kind of dude Jaylen Brown might actually be. Well, in our opinion at least. But we want to know what you guys think. Was Basketball USA out of line for not selecting Jaylen Brown? Was he snubbed based on fit? Or do you believe he was left off for some political or non-basketball related reason? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more sports news and insights. Thanks for watching. See you next time.